You're not telling me that she also didn't believe that when those bells rang, it meant an angel was nearby. And what's an angel? An angel is a spirit. So people don't even realize that what they're believing in is believing in more than one thing to be true. But yet, the
Mhm.
minute you bring it up,
Mhm.
don't do that. Don't believe in that. Don't do those things. That's bad.
Like, just be a good human. Give good energy out, get good energy back, but also realizing, like, the world is on fucking fire right now. There's a lot of bad. There is a lot of religious trauma. There is a lot of people that are using their religion to harm others, and that I'm not down with. That I got a lot of beef with, and that's where religion always gets touchy.
I don't get it because I was like, there's only God. I was like, how could she believe in these spirits or all these things? I was like, that makes no sense to me. I was like, does she even love God? Like, I was having like this battle with myself about you can't love more than one thing, you can't believe in more than one thing. And so Mary's like having these things, she's telling me about them. I'm looking at Rick going, how is this even possible? Because I was like, it's like it can't, you can't do it.
Three women, three paths, one mission. To prove that your story is not your limitation, to guide you towards your muchness, to explore the unfiltered truths, and to challenge every bit of belief that built your mask. This is Go Be Too Much, the unapologetic space for the bold, the healing, and the unfinished, where we decide what's too much was always meant for more. So let's chat. Maybe we'll fuck around and find out just how unmissable we all are.
We
I
are
don't know.
gonna we are gonna reset, because what the energy in the room, the energy of the day is not. It's not
It's not
gonna
about
win.
it's not about the languages. It's not about our needs. What do we need then?
Yeah, Spirit,
Right.
please tell me because obviously you don't like what I have to fucking say.
All
You
right.
spicy.
All right.
Spicy. I'm like, so with that said, spirit, energy, universe. We've mentioned Gus before. For those who maybe don't remember, but Gus, God, universe, source, spirit, religion can be a really touchy topic for people. And maybe this whole podcast episode will be real touchy for people. But here's the thing, on Go Be Too Much, we try to do what we think we need, and sometimes we get told we need to sit down and do something else. And so we were just trying to have a conversation and a podcast that we'll just have to do it another time, because today the energy wants us to talk about it. So I'm MJ. I'm the host. This is Mandy and Cassie. And today we're going to talk about spirits and awakening and maybe religion, not religion, and all the things in between. And wherever this conversation just goes, we're flying on a whim. So,
Absolutely. And I think you need to start off with telling people like the separation of Gus, like the
Mm-hmm.
GUSS and what that means and maybe how you came to know it, describe
Mm-hmm.
it, what came there because like you said, this was very impromptu. The universe was like absolutely fucking not on our last combo. Please inform the audience where,
yeah,
who, what, where, when, why.
sure. So I was
But
I was born and
first,
raised.
you gotta
What?
welcome everyone to the podcast.
Oh, sure.
Hi. It's like,
Hi.
hi.
Welcome to Go Be Too Much. We're
Yes.
just gonna start yapping.
Get your shit together.
Hi. So I was born raised a Catholic, and there's lots that comes into that, and I don't really want to focus a lot on that because my journey with faith in general has been very ups and downs and turns and this, that, and the other. And to a lot of people, I know that will resonate because that's really what having faith and belief in anything is that you're gonna go back and forth, you're gonna question things, you're gonna challenge things, you're not going to believe sometimes at all. You're going to be pissed off all the things. And then other times you'll believe fully. And everybody's religion has its own positives and negatives and things like that. And so over time, I got to a place where I really was like, I don't need to sit in a pew to have a faith. Me and God, we have a religion or a relationship outside of that normal focus. And I know for a lot of people in my life, that's a hard thing to hear. It's a hard thing to know. And then as I became a mom, when I had Zelda, um, I went through some life scary situations, almost dying, some struggles within my marriage, everything like that, that I just kept turning to my faith, my relationship with God more and more. And it was really because in that moment, there's so many things out of control, so many unknowns, that for me, that's what faith has always been, is having something to turn that over to. And for that, I always think that people need to believe in something, anything, to give it over when it is too heavy to carry on our own. And so as I moved to Vegas, I then kind of found myself really vibing with a Christian church, actually, and their music and how they give their talks and how relatable it is, and its structure without structure and things like that. And so I really like that. And the kids and I, we go to that church still and things like that, but there's not a pressure of if we don't go that somehow our relationship is weakening and things like that. And wanting to help my kids know and understand that there is something that they can turn that over to. And in my journey and understanding what my faith is and feeling connected, I just really came to understand that sometimes what other people believe in other than God is universe, right? And believing in the astrology and the science behind things and how it impacts us and the energy going on from the earth itself and all around us, and that they turn it over to that it's bigger than them, to help them understand why am I feeling how I'm feeling, what's going on in today's astrology of things, what is my whole birth chart plotted out, everything, to really understand that. And from there, then I would understand people talking about, source, and that it's more of a, how do I put that? Not so much like a being like God, but it's an energy of that, right? And so it's
Mhm,
sources in that way, and then giving to us, and spirit, right? Believing in angels and believing in those who have gone on and leading us and guiding us and protecting us. And so I really came to this place where I just kind of was like, you know what? Like, who am I to say only one thing could be true? And so again, it's understanding that maybe all things can be true. And that goes for good and evil. And I know that could be a hot topic for people too. But the truth is, if I can believe in the good of the world and the good things and angels and spirits and things like that, why not also believe that there is the other side to that coin, that there can be evil, that there can be demonic things, blah, 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 all of that. And so, I heard somebody, I think it was on TikTok, actually use the Gus statement, and I can't tell you who it was. I can't give them credit, but I loved it. I thought it was great. And that it's just allowing me to have anything and everything to put it into, and to know that no matter how I look at it, I'm just not in it alone. And to me, that's the most important piece of this conversation, is that having something bigger than us is, in times like it is right
mhm.
now in our world. And it's hard to believe in, how could we, be going through such hardship and struggling so much if there is such a good thing out there. And it's it's allowing us to not have to have the answers and the control. And it can be really hard to do. It's really hard to just trust that process. It's that's kind of, I guess, the breakdown of where that all came from, and has really gotten stronger for me and more, I guess, just confirmed in me and believing in all of these things, that for me it's a good thing to have in my life. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of feeling connected and feeling like there is somebody greater than me to help me in good times and bad. So I don't know what you all want to share about it, but
No,
that's where we're
I have a question because, obviously Cassie and I have gotten a front row seat to watch you transition through all of this, but our listeners have not. Our listeners have not been a part of your life. What has that journey been like for you as you navigate maybe where you were 2 years ago with, religion, spirits, guides, other things? I think because I remember one of the first times, like, I had showed you crystals. Like, I keep crystals on my desk, and I have them, various places, and you're like, why didn't you tell me? Like, why didn't you tell me you were into crystals? I didn't know. Like, I took it to be like, I didn't know you were like a safe person for me to talk to. And doing like my cinnamon on the first of the month and freezer spells and things like that. And you were just like, what do you mean? So I know that's not something that we talked about. Or it's not something I necessarily didn't talk about. It's just like, yeah, over at my house, we're first of the month, we're getting that shit in there. And like somebody pissed me off, I'm putting your ass in the freezer. You're gonna go cool off for a minute. So I'm curious what like your experience with that transition, navigating that with your family, with your kids, within your line of work. We are in a very professional world. You especially being, the work that you do, the population that you work with. My kids think crystals are cool as shit and they want to talk about it. But what has that transition been like?
So I think for me, the biggest thing about it is that one, not being even aware of you like doing those things. Again, it wasn't topics. And I think for a lot of people, it's not topics you're not necessarily having or that you're purposely not having, but you aren't what they consider to be awake to those things and have it be in the forefront of your mind as something to even take note of. Like for me to even take note that you're doing these things until it's something in my life that's in me seeking that out. And so wanting to know and understand more. And I guess that would be the biggest thing was educating myself like that. So crystals, they're natural made rocks. Like they're things from this earth that have science behind it to prove and talk about why or how they can be helpful for you. And so it's understanding that it's not just people in the crystals. Like, no, there's like actual things to this that people through hundreds of years back over time and understanding that. And like, wow, I was so closed off to that because my world for so long was only about church and not just being Catholic, but like the different types of church. Like there's Christian, there's Mormon, there's baptism. Like, I mean, and so it's understanding that like it's not just church, there's so much more to it. And so for me, kind of coming into that, like, like what have I been missing out on? And if it connects with me, if it can resonate with me, make me feel better. And so I actually really testify to the crystal thing because with my work, what I do energetically, like giving to people and people pouring into me what's going on with them. And I can mentally, to the best of my ability, logically be like, that's not mine and not carry things with me. But that it still is like this exhaustion. And I just always was like, why am I always so exhausted? And I understand that, yes, it's still a long day, it's a 9 to 5. And yes, I understand that I'm still a mom at the end of the day and whatever else. But like, why? Like, there's just something else there. And so finally, I was like, you know what? What's it going to hurt? So I tried out some of the crystal options and I wear them. And I tell you what, it was night and day to that exhaustion piece and not having just feeling completely fatigued and emptied. And so it was allowing myself the space to explore that and to say that me exploring it didn't necessarily mean that I was like all of a sudden going this way with it or going that way with it. That it was just, there's just so much in life that we just limit ourselves to. And why? Why am I limiting myself to it? Especially if it can help me, right? I'm not hurting anybody else, all these things, right? And so, with that being said, like how that impacted, like with my kids and stuff, I don't, Zelda doesn't really like take note or anything like that. She's too young. But like with Emily, her and I've had some conversations around those things. And she, she'll support me in whatever I believe, but I don't push anything on her. We have good conversations around faith and stuff like that because she knows and understands like that I want her to have something bigger to turn to in those dark times. And when we go to church and she hears them talk about every time, well, she's like, why is it so connected to what we're going through? I'm like, why? Why is it so connected to everything? It's because it is. It's because it's what we needed to hear, it is what we needed, and because it is real. And so she's open to it in that way, but also being respectful to her and how things can trigger her because she's had other people in her life be interested in these things and go about these things in a unhealthy way, possessive, push on, toxic way. People who didn't really look into it to know and went with it from what they just heard and so stuff like that. And so then it's kind of like that makes her weary of it. So respecting those boundaries and that just because I'm trying this out or that out doesn't mean that she has to or that they have to. And then as far as like with my friends and stuff, yeah, I mean, there's a few of you that like as things happen and I go through, but I think a lot of it, I had I had some really isolated moments without knowing that I was isolating. And I think that that's a big part of it is because you need that time to yourself to recognize that something in you is shifting and not let anything outside of you hinder that. And so it's like it happens naturally on its own that you just go through more of a quiet period. And what was the craziest part is that this quiet period for me all happened that led me up to these big moments that have shifted now with deciding to move and build my home with this business and the podcast. And so it's that sort of tower moment coming inward. I didn't have anything right in that moment. Maybe like 2 years ago, I had a big external tower moment where a bunch of things came crashing down, right? And I'm a big believer when things come crashing down, it is falling into place. You're being redirected. You're being, given this opportunity to go in a different direction. And it may not make a whole lot of sense, but it's usually protection of something. And so I wasn't having any more big external things. It was more internal, and that was me keeping more to myself, which can feel hard because you don't want to be alone, but in that moment really needed it to be that way. And then when you do start to talk about it, you wonder, like, what are people going to think now that I'm talking about these things and like that, even through this podcast? Like, I'm sure people are going to be like, what? Since when? She's cuckoo or whatever. And I'm like, and I like, it's so just naturally me. Like I've always been just the oddball that I'm like, of course I am. It's like, and I'm pretty sure that I've said that to anybody when I talk to about this stuff is just like, of course I am like this. Like, why wouldn't I be? It's so fitting. I've always been called to things that are a little bit out there and different perspective. And so you asked me with how that affects work. It's allowed for me to be able to see people who are also in a place of figuring this aspect of them out and feeling seen and feeling like that they don't have to worry about somebody just thinking that they're crazy for believing in
Mhm.
energy or source or God. And that also, I understand that there is mental health and how that plays into it. And I think that where I'm at now in life is just the very beginning of being somebody that can be a bridge between those things of what has our world and individuals created in terms of mental health and then the other possibilities, the other things, and helping that again, is it both? Is both things true? Is it one or the other? Is it, and so I've had a lot of people feel really comforted in the fact that they can be them authentic selves and that they can share what they do to help them feel safe or protected. And I guess to me, that's like the biggest thing around this topic is if it's not hurting anybody else, then why do we shun away from it? Why do we shame it in a negative light? I know you mentioned, putting a name in a jar and people are like, well, Mandy's hurting people, but she's not hurting anybody. Like she's not.
No, to be clear, I'm freezing that energy because that's not energy that I need. When a freezer spell happens, it's because I don't like the energy that is surrounding me. So I need to put you in a timeout.
Right. So, and I guess I shouldn't say that not everybody. I mean, I know that there's plenty on this topic that I don't know and may never know or this or that, but that like, and other people try to do stuff. And I'm not speaking to them. I can't speak to anybody else, but I can speak to what I think about it. And that I think why limit ourselves from having comfort in something greater than ourselves to help us navigate life?
No, I agree with that. I'm going to tell a little backstory before I go into my topic on this. We grew up and we also were Catholic. My grandma passed away, then 2 years later my grandpa passed away, and then 2 years later my dad passed away. And so I hated God. I thought he was a terrible human. Why would you take all these people that I love away from me? And so like I got away from that. Eventually, just like you, I went back to the Christian side of things. I was in a motorcycle accident when I was 17, and I got hit by a car. I fractured my entire skull and I was in a coma for 4 days. When they found me under the car, my face was purple and I wasn't breathing, and they had to bring me back to life and life flight me because my brain was bleeding. And the reason I tell this story is because since that moment, I knew that I was meant for something bigger in this life. Because why was I brought back when so many people pass away from motorcycle accidents? And like I said, I Humpty Dumptied my ass. Like my head was totally, yeah, not attached, the top to bottom. And I had, I had that moment where I was like, why me? Like, why was I the person that was brought back? And so since then, I've told myself that I am meant for something more and I want to be the light in this dark world because, and shit, that was back in 2009. So, I mean, it's been a minute. And I just knew from there, I was like, something out there is bigger than me, which then turned me to Christianity. And then why that segues into this is because I remember Mary telling me that, hey, this is this new journey I'm on. I talked to Rick and I was like, I don't get it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, and then one day I was like, I'm curious. And so because I have a very open mind. I'm a naturally curious person. And I was like, can you please tell me more? Like, I don't understand how there's a God and spirits and sources. I was like, it makes no sense to me. And I would just like to know. And since then, I've had the Mary likes to say there's no coincidences. And right when this was happening, I actually got a snake tattoo. Mary's like, Cassie, you know what year it is, right? And I was like, no. And she's like, it's the year of the snake. And I was like, very, very, I was like, very interesting. Like, as I'm having these epiphanies of just like all these different things. And since then, I've just had moments where I was like, Gus, fill me in, what's happening here? And I mean, whether it be coincidence, freak action, or anything else like that, like by me putting something higher than myself, whoever it may be, bless you, I am very grateful. Like all these different opportunities, situations, realizations, even, when things are crumbling, because I've had a rough couple months lately and I was like, what the heck? But now I'm like, oh, like you said, it was falling into place. So all these things that I was like, what am I gonna do? What am I like? How's it gonna work out? It all flowed. And I found that within myself, when I put it out into the universe and say, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Somebody who's listening, please help me. Like some way, shape, or form, it gets answered. And since then, I've just like allowed things to happen. And instead of being a control freak, I'm just like, you do you. I'm here in your time. Whatever happens, happens. So that's kind of how it happened with Mary. I just was like, I don't know, this lady's a little crazy, a little weird, even though you've been my best friend for a long time. I'm like, is she off her rocker? And now I'm
Something
just
happened, right?
and now I'm just so fascinated by all of the things. I'm just like, can you tell me more?
And it's funny because it's like I definitely like things are new. It's just new to me and learning myself and whatnot. And but I say that and then I'm thinking about how you're saying like I would say that there's no coincidences and that's something a little bit new of a belief for me, but the belief that is not new that I have said my whole life is that everything happens for a reason. I've always said that. And I know for a lot of people that statement in itself is hard. And don't get me wrong, I respect that. I know it's hard. Everything happens for a reason. And yet the worst thing that just popped in your head and you're telling me there's a reason for that? Yes, I am. I'm telling you that there's a reason for that. And it doesn't mean that you deserved that horrible thing. It doesn't mean that that is okay, but there is a reason for it. And when we get out of our own way and we allow ourselves to see what possible reasons there might be for those things, we can see how it redirected us. We can see how it maybe even then protected us, even though in that moment when it happened, it might have been just the worst thing. And so, not always getting what you want or getting the answer the way that you think you'll get it, but that it does come to you. And, it could be something like for me, at one point I was talking about, even with my marriage, that I would constantly pray, help me, help him, help the situation. What do I need to do? Guide me, give me answers, give me clarity. Do I try this? What do I do here? How do I do this? And they continue to send lessons. I wasn't fully hearing it. Things would continue to happen. I wasn't fully hearing it. And then at some point, I got the message. I knew what to do. I knew what was right. And so we don't always listen to what we're being shown and what we're being told and what to do. And it's because it's not what we want to hear. It's not what we think should be happening.
There's a, not to talk like totally godly, but it's the story of the guy, and there's a flood, and it's not Moses, but he goes up to the roof of his house and he's like, God save me. Like, I don't want to
Mhm.
drown. So they send him a boat. And then he's like, no, God's going to save me. And they're like, okay. So then they send a helicopter. And then he's like, no, God's going to save me. And I think there's one other thing, but then
Mhm.
he drowns and he goes, God, I thought you were going to save me. He's like, you didn't see the boat, the helicopter, whatever the other thing is. And it's like,
Life
that they
vest.
were there. It just wasn't what we wanted. Like, we
Mhm.
were like, that's not what I asked for. Well, it probably was just not in the package that you wanted to be delivered.
Well, and I think what you said just now, like not wanting to make it about a God thing, but I think that's kind of what I'm saying is that it's not just one way. Like, again, why, as human individuals, are we trying to say it can only be one thing? And by doing that, no matter what belief it is you have, whether it's even on a spiritual talk or something completely other topic, when you say it is only this way when it comes to something, like, why is that? Why are we limiting ourselves to only believing that one way could be true? And also, when that happens in history, how has it repeated itself and shown up? When we say that we only have one way of doing something, the only one way should be done this way, only one belief, well, only one. I mean, it's just not. So whether it's God sending the lifeboat, whether it's the stars lining up and providing the right, whether it's the earth's energy giving off, whether it's your guardian angel from a grandmother who passed away. And yes, I'm using that as reference because that's my grandma all day. This woman had walls upon walls of little angels with little bells. And she is a very Catholic lady. You're not telling me that she also didn't believe that when those bells rang, it meant an angel was nearby. And what's an angel? An angel is a spirit. So people don't even realize that what they're believing in is believing in more than one thing to be true. But yet, the
Mhm.
minute you bring it up,
Mhm.
don't do that. Don't believe in them. Don't do those things. That's bad.
I think that's the conversation or the 2 points of views that you guys have offered. I feel myself coming in like a pessimist because I mean, that's always been my beef with religion, right? If a religion is telling you that only this is true, then that's where my beef starts initially. And then I look, Mary, you said, whatever you think about the thing when you say whatever everything happens for a reason, that thing you just thought about, like everything happens for a reason, that was not centralized to myself. Nothing about me came through. Everything about the shit show that is the world came through. And for me, I don't see how, the God or the gods that people believe in. And when we come to religion and you look at all of the things that are happening in the world, all of the suffering, all of the pain, all of the struggles that are happening with people. And I'm like, this the God y'all believe in? That your God's just out here letting everybody cut up, act a fool? Like, that's fucking whack. That's not something that I particularly want to believe in. I don't think I want to give energy to that. But I borrow so many things from Christianity, from Buddhism, from the spirits, from the guides. I remember taking a world religions class and a philosophy class in my first 2 years of college. Dr. Mummert, phenomenal man. Um, just learning about different perspectives, different religions, like how women are or perceived in those religions. What are the cultural aspects? What are the traditions? What are the things that they do? And I remember finding something really cool about all of them and just like wanting to be a melting pot of all of that. Like, just be a good human, give good energy out, get good energy back, but also realizing like the world is on fucking fire right now. There's a lot of bad. There is a lot of religious trauma. There is a lot of people that are using their religion to harm others. And that I'm not down with. That I got a lot of beef with.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where religion always gets touchy, is when you meet those individuals, and it's not everyone. You meet those individuals that are interpreting their religion in a harmful way. And I'm going to say harmful way because, I don't think any religion, when you look at it in terms of what's guiding your life, how are your principles? How are you living life? I don't think religion ever meant to come in and be like, you should shit on this whole sector of people because of who they are, because that means you're a good Christian or that means you're a good Baptist or what have you. So there's always those little oddities, those little things that are interesting about each religion that I'm just like, that's the hill we wanted to die on. That's what okay, all right. And so yes, the spirits very much do guide my life. I mean, I grew up in a haunted house. I joke about hating haunted houses. It's because I literally grew up in the house that my dad lived in, and his parents started redoing the upstairs before they passed, and they passed before the house was ever finished. When we redid the house and we moved upstairs, we started having spiritual moments. There were, things that my mom would see in the attic and voices that we would hear and footsteps, like when you're downstairs and nobody's home and you could hear footsteps. Like we had those moments all the time. There were always signs happening out on the funny farm. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I believe, I'm listening. Leave me alone. I got to go to bed. And I do believe in the spiritual things, but I really like the aspects of Native culture and a lot of Hispanic cultures that look at like the afterlife, afterworld. We just had November 1st, Dia de los Muertos, where
Hmm.
you honor your ancestors, you honor your spirits, and native tribes here in Arizona and everywhere, honoring the land, honoring what came before them, honoring Mother Earth and all of those things. Like there's just so much that I want to borrow from everywhere. And so, like you said, honoring, who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? But if your religion tells you to do harm to others or to hate on a certain sector, like, fuck you. You're a shit human. And
Right. Well,
those
like
are
I
my
was going to
struggles.
say, those things that are bothering you, like with the things in the world, right? And that we can say, like, how can you believe in something that would allow for this? But the thing is whatever you're believing in, like, we are still, like, we're still us. Like, we still have to make a choice. We still have to do things. And now I know that there's some people that, like, they don't believe in that. They believe we come here, we had a set plan, we signed up for it. We did sign up for it. If we signed up for it, though, it doesn't mean that there's just one way about doing that. You might delay it. You might go off
Mm-hmm,
task a bit. You might this, that, and the other. You might really get yourself off it and never come back around. That's why you got to do shit 2 times through. But I'm just saying that, like, we still have a choice.
mm-hmm,
Still have choice to do good, to do mean, to do evil, to hate, to not hate. Like, we still have choices, free will of those things.
mm-hmm,
And that's why I think people like get frustrated with like to believe in something. And it's no, I don't believe it. I don't believe in something that would purposely want to harm other people. No, like I don't believe that. Maybe other people do, but I don't believe that. But I do believe in a world where there's opportunity for good and bad things to be the outcome, to have to call people to rise, to make change, to learn. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a lot of crap
mm-hmm.
before we can do that.
And the only reason we know something to be good is because we know something to be bad.
Right.
If we didn't know this is bad or this doesn't feel good, we wouldn't know what joy, we wouldn't know what good feels like or looks like if those two things didn't exist. And we've talked about the duality of things. We've talked about the iridescent, living in that gray area. Life's fucking complicated.
Well, and it kind of goes perfect with my favorite wizarding world of Harry Potter and a post actually on my Go Be Too Much TikTok that has the most views. I think it was up to like 19 point something K the other day, but it's a combination of quotes from that. And I had posted that just recently and just listening to it and challenging people to really listen to it. Yes, it's from a fictional story, a fictional character, but the words that are being said is something that we need to listen to. And it talks about like not pitying the dead. It talks about that in the darkest of times, one must only remember to turn on the light. I mean, it's true that you cannot have one without the other. And the more you're able to learn to live with acceptance of both the dark and the light, not only in the world around you, but even within yourself, I think that has a lot to do with encompassing your muchness
Mhm.
and be fully yourself without limitations.
Yeah. When you just said the light and the dark within ourselves, it made me think about how I am not a fan of the things that have happened in my life, the, random events and such and things, situations I've been put in, but I really like who I am today. And so I can't change any one of those things and still be who I am today, right? And so, I accept that those dark piece of shit times have happened and I am who I am today and I really like who I am and I think I'm a good human. Um and so, like, thinking about stuff like that was crazy. And you also mentioning oh gosh, I don't remember how you framed it, but we got this book for Davina and we were talking about different, like, laws, like different Murphy laws, essentially. And the one we talked about yesterday, actually, I can't remember what it is, and I'm going to remember when we're done, but it was talking about why do we do the things that we do? Well, that's the way it's always been done. But why? Like, why do we never question why? Just because grandma used to cut the ends off the meatloaf because the pan was this big and that's why you still do it. I'm sure people have heard that story. Or one thing that Rick told me about was there was a science experiment with monkeys, and they put 6 monkeys in this area and one banana, and you had to climb the ladder to get to the banana. And when the one monkey went up and got the banana, the rest of them got sprayed. So it taught them, like, oh, if that person goes up the ladder, we got to beat the crap out of them because we don't want to get sprayed, right? And so every time that monkey got beat up, they took that monkey out and put a new one. Now, if you think about it, there started with 6 original monkeys, and now there's 6 brand new monkeys. None of them even know why they beat the person up. It's just that's what it is. Like, why do we keep doing things? Like, why don't we question things? Like, okay, so it's been like this for how long? But why? Like, where did this even start in being the change in this world? And I think that's my biggest thing about being the light in this world is why do we do things? Like, if there is a better way, why aren't we doing it that way? Like, yes, we can take pieces of a thing that has worked and we'll say there's 4 pieces. We could take 3 with us. Let's change that one piece so we can be a little bit better. We don't have to continue to live like we'll just use COVID for instance. The world 10x'd itself when that happened because none of us knew how to live secludedly, how to do
Hmm.
everything through technology, right? But if we wouldn't have adapted and moved as fast as we did, if we probably would be living in a different 2025, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like we have to learn to adapt, but each person needs to learn to adapt. Like we don't have to
Hmm.
change completely. We can just change one little thing and it's going to put you in a different space. And I wish more people would just be like, just because it's been this way your whole life does not mean that we need to stay on this path. You can pivot, as we like to talk about.
100%. I think what you're both kind of hitting on is the essence of how I feel always in every space that I enter is I look at situations, I look at things and like how can I make this better? Not in the sense of like something is wrong with it and it must change, but I do. I'm a healer, I'm a helper, I'm a fixer by nature. And when I see pain, I see suffering, I see dysfunction, I see chaos, I'm like, how can I wrangle this? How can I make this better? I mean, hell, I have been breaking into my friends' homes to organize their shit in their closets because I'm like, I want to fix this because I think there's a better system. So yes, self-awareness, reflecting of like what works about our lives, what doesn't work about our lives, what am I contributing to? What am I maybe not contributing to? And I should be. And then and reflecting and taking those pieces that are working and moving forward, but recognizing like, this is maladaptive in my life. This is hurting me. This is hurting my life. This is hurting people in my life. And like, okay, this is what I need to change. This is what I want to uh, modify and move forward. And yes, Cassie, if more people would do that, if more people would reflect on their own self, like look inward on how they're showing up in this world and just be like, these are the good things that I like. And this is maybe something that needs to change. If we were all doing that for ourselves and not policing other people and telling other people that they need to change or they're too much, they're doing too much, and then trying to change them or trying to change that and instead turn inward and just worry about ourselves, drive our own fucking car, stay in our own lane. If we could all just turn inward, I think you'd start seeing a shift and people would navigate the good and the bad a little bit differently. It wouldn't be this all or nothing or everything is awful because it's bad. It's like that is a part of this journey. That is a part of life. That is a part of existing as a human on this godforsaken planet. And so there's just so much that you can get into it. There's so much I'm sure that we could all go on and on and on and on about. I am curious. I'm curious what our listeners will have to say and maybe what questions or what feedback can be solicited from this because Mary, you're right. Religion is a hot topic. It is one of those trigger points for a lot of people, but it is also a healing point for a lot of people as well. And then opening it up to Gus and opening up to more than just what this is, than what you've seen, what you've known all your life, and knowing like two things can be true at the same time. Two beings, Cassie, two things can exist at the same time because it exists within you and it exists within Mary and it exists within me in three different ways. Same but different font is what I always say, like same but different font.
Well, and I think that that is the key thing that we just even reflected in here to what you're talking about, which is Cassie and I have been friends for a very long time. I've been friends with you, Mandy, for a very long time. And Candace, who's not here, but we referenced, I've been friends with her for a very long time. And even though, we all go through different things and change, and this being one of those, right? Like it's having the space to share those experiences of our lives and knowing that like that Cassie may have questioned and wondered and thought all the things, but that she looked inward, she reflected rather than turning it around to I was this or that. And that doesn't mean you can't be concerned with somebody. By all means, if she genuinely was concerned about me, I know she would say something, right? But it was more about why she was closed off to it. And when she allowed herself to say, okay, so what I believe, what I think is true, but what else is she talking about? What are these things that she's saying? And allowed herself even just the possibility. And so, whether this is in religion, whether it's just in life in general, like what possibilities are you not seeing and allowing yourself to have an experience because you're limiting yourself or you're limiting those around you? So, go be too much. Go be all that you are. Until next time.
Till next time,
Bye.
bye.